Previously on Restoration, a distraction in the artificing wing and a records room heist weren't exactly how the team thought they'd spend their evening, but both proved surprisingly fruitful. You guys hightail it out of there. Make me one more stealth check just to see if we get out cleanly.
Hey!
Womp womp.
I was like, he does have stealth expertise. Oh,
He just trips.
No one ever told him he'd have to be sneaky.
I'm a doctor, not a thief.
exactly. He's like, I'm so sorry to hear that. Let's go.
Luckily, we're on our way to the moon bridge, so it's okay. We meet you, and you guys managed to get out without getting grease or mud mephits on you, so that's good. How have you guys been feeling waiting for us to get there?
He's had some stuff on his mind. And it's a new experience for him to be able to think about things, like, clearly and deeply. I feel like he's definitely been leaning on the railing of the moon bridge, staring off into space and thinking. For the first time in many, many years.
I'm getting increasingly anxious about the damage that we created. Because now that I'm, out of it, it's like, oh god, what have I done? I think I'm muttering, a litany of things that are going to be destroyed and that I'm worried about, under my breath. Oh god, the hall's going to be a mess. Oh no, didn't I remember something about mud everywhere? I think that was a thing. Oh god, and then probably the Fey Dragon will have just, eaten a bunch of stuff they shouldn't... I'm just sitting there, making myself more and more anxious by the second.
It takes a while for Sarathiel to notice that, but when he does, he's like, hey, Gwen.
And then also, oh god, oh god. Oh, it's gonna be,
Gwen.
Yeah, hi, Sarathiel.
Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Alright? Everything we did out of necessity.
It's all gonna be destroyed. Oh god, Sarathiel's gonna be so bad.
Okay, alright, you're doing the opposite of what I said.
I just sort of sink down on the side of the bridge, so I'm sitting down, and I'm just I put my head between my knees. Do you have a paper bag?
I do not have a paper bag, no. What helps me when I'm anxious is I have a flute. You want to hear me play the flute?
You have what?
He pulls it out from his pack. It's just like an ordinary silver flute. It's not magical or anything.
I am staring, fascinated. Everything is completely forgotten, because I didn't know he had a fucking flute, and I'm like, yes, I would like to hear you play that. You play the flute?
Yes, I do. I taught myself how to play. This was given to me by a bard a couple centuries ago. He's gone now. He's dead. He was a human, so he's probably dead. But, I've had time to get over it. I feel like this isn't really a very good story to... And he starts playing the flute.
Is it good?
Yeah, Sarathiel's actually very talented on the flute.
Ooh. Damn, does she have to roll for that?
No, we've actually already established it.
Oh, lame. Okay.
It's in his inventory.
He's trying to calm you down, but he's not,
He's not trying to perform. He's not, trying to earn tips.
I watch you fascinated the entire time. I just had no idea.
You thought he was too dumb to play the flute. Admit it.
When we come back, do we, come across this scene of, Sarathiel playing the flute and Gwen with, sitting down?
Head between his knees.
Yeah, spellbound Pied Piper situation.
So I think what happens is Tanya hands off her stuff and then goes to get herself an alibi. And then V and Chaz continue on to the moon bridge. Luckily, we did not trigger anything that required Taina to help. I had a thing where if you guys were attacked, she would turn and defend you against her comrades. But luckily, we didn't need to do that because I had to do complicated math.
I feel like when we get to the bridge, Chaz is out of breath. He's like, All right, that's a lot more running than I'm used to.
Sarathiel stops playing and says, well, I see it went well, based on the fact that you're not being pursued by guards.
Yeah.
I leap up. Did anyone see you? Did anyone see you?
No. Gwen, calm down. Are you all right? Everyone all right?
I mean, we're fine. Nothing really bad happened. Actually, it was actually kind of fun. But we're just... You didn't...
Gwynedd has discovered a part of himself that he had not hitherto known was there. It's fine. He's working through it.
Chaz just like raises an eyebrow, like at the word fun. He's like, "Oh, all right."
I mean, we always knew you had a little bit of a bent for chaos, so not terribly surprised.
So, do you have it?
Yeah, we got some things, but we shouldn't really out here.
We can't stand here.
I mean,
Is there a tavern nearby, maybe?
so there's taverns nearby. There's also the option of we can go to Gwen's dorm, or Viernon does have a house.
Viernon has a house? I thought you lived at Aptap,
Nope.
Viernon. No. I am absolutely on team go to Viernon's house.
Yeah, me too.
Will fiance let us in? She opens the door, sees Sarathiel, immediately closes.
He has a key. She didn't take the key away.
I feel like we would not all fit into my dorm room. Like, it's not a big dorm room.
That's fair.
He's got a pot-smoking roommate, so, like...
Yeah, I definitely do. Like, it would be really weird and awkward. He'd probably offer you, like, a joint. It would just, let's not do it.
So far, I'm not hearing things that make me not want to do this, but okay.
Right. Chaz is like, so you don't want us to have fun, is what you're saying.
You can't. It's illegal drugs, Chaz. You can't just go around.
Hey, you can't assume that it's illegal in Faerun.
It's a plant? Plants are illegal? What?
I feel like even if it's legal, that, like, Gwen is from a small enough town and with, like, a conservative enough dad that it does not matter.
Your dad has told you it's illegal.
You can't smoke Asmodeus's lettuce.
Yeah. It's the same thing as taking, like, acid or, like, cocaine.
Oh, God. He probably also told you if you had sex outside of marriage, you'll immediately die. Get struck down by lightning.
Oh yeah, he did.
He definitely did, yes. I was like, you can't just take that stuff, Chaz. Come on. We should go to Viernon's place.
Yeah, so it sounds like we're on team sneak into V's kitchen.
Yes, please.
That sounds great.
Absolutely.
All right. So he leads you up to a nicer part of town. You know, you'd explored the areas along the waterfront and whatnot when you were looking for Alaric Drake the first time, but he leads you a little bit further into the city, and it's not the hoity-toity neighborhoods, but it's definitely nicer.
This is probably the nicest houses I've ever seen. I feel like it's like when you're a college student and you go to people's, like, real houses and you're like, oh my god, it's so big.
You're like, what?
Wait, you have a whole kitchen? Wait, how many bathrooms do you have? You have more than one bathroom? You don't just share your bathroom?
So do you guys have any reactions to the part of town that you're headed into, or anything you're talking about on the way?
Definitely. If there are nice houses, like Chaz is like, oh, damn, you've got money.
You already knew that.
I did.
Sarathiel's like, is Celestine home?
No.
Okay, well, there go my concerns. Full speed ahead.
How are things?
I pipe up. Where is she?
She went to her family's for the night.
Okay, so not great. All right.
Yeah, not great.
So, like, a sleepover?
We have no further questions, Gwen.
Oh,
We have
okay.
no further
Are you
questions.
sure, though? Because I have some questions.
Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Chaz, like, nods, like, you have no further questions.
He just kind of gives you like, oh, poor boy look, but just kind of lets it roll off.
I'm, like, looking around. I lean over to, like, Chaz at some point. I'm like, some point, someone is going to have to explain to me what is going on, because I don't understand anything.
Oh, I can do that right here, right
Okay.
now. Celestine thought that V was cheating on him with Sarathiel. Isn't that hilarious?
What? Obviously, V wouldn't cheat on him with Sarathiel. He's clearly not his type.
I know.
You're standing right here.
I know you are. That's why. It's hilarious. Anyway, let's keep walking.
Oh yeah, let's just air more of my dirty laundry today. That's great.
Sorry, V.
I keep walking next to Chaz, and I'm like, also, what's going on with you and Sarathiel?
Nothing's going on.
Really? Because you've been saying mean things about each other all day.
He sort of looks at Sarathiel out of the corner of his eye, and he's just like, he's not whispering anymore. He's like, no, it's because someone seems to be committed to misunderstanding me.
Oh, what a wonderful deflection.
He wants to make the worst possible conclusion.
Indeed. I'll just ignore the centuries of evidence then.
Oh no, I didn't want to start this. I'm very sorry.
As you will.
Yeah, Viernon's just like, oh no, come on. This has been the longest day in the universe.
Yeah, Chaz is like, there's your answer.
He gets you up to the house, and it's, it's not the nicest house on the block, but it's in the neighborhood it's in. Let's just say it that way. I mean, it's nice. It's more cluttered than you'd expect, because Celestine is a chart maker at the chart house, and she's an academic. There's lots of books and things everywhere. He is a wizard, technically, to get all of his healing stuff, so there's also medical books all over, bits and bobs of potions that are mostly contained to a corner of the kitchen, but not entirely. And it's cozier, but also a little bit more untidy than you necessarily would expect from Viernon.
Yeah, Sarathiel's fine with it. He heads right up to, I assume there's like a dining room table, kitchen table, something like that.
Yeah.
And he sits down and he says, so, what did we learn?
I think I need a cup of coffee before we get into anything, but,
Did you get my file?
I got part of it.
Well, how about I take that and you go get that cup of coffee?
I'll go make coffee. I get up and make coffee. I'm just like staring back and forth with the awkwardness, and I'm like, I'll just do it.
Thank you, Gwen.
Shouldn't he be supervised in your kitchen? What if he explodes something?
I'll say, I feel like I don't actually know how to make coffee, but I am opening cabinets. You just hear loud clanking noises.
Oh, God. Okay.
Occasional crashes.
Oh, he hurries out as soon as he hears a crash, like, oh, fuck. Yeah, hasn't, like, bothered divesting himself of bags or anything. Like, just automatically runs after you, like, no, wait.
Oh, wow. Really trying to keep me from being alone with those files, huh?
Uh-huh.
I see your game.
Chaz takes a seat.
Sarathiel stares.
Well, what are you hoping to find in there?
Anything. My entire life has been stolen from me, apparently. Anything I can find is more than I had.
That is true. DM, is there any tidbit that I learned while I was scrolling through stuff?
V kind of deliberately had you copying the other files.
Okay, gotcha.
Because Sarathiel's file, he figured was going to be complex and a little trickier.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why he doesn't really want to go over it as a group. He kind of wants to talk to Sarathiel about how to go through it together, because it's kind of like seeing your therapy file. Like, reading this unsupervised is not a good idea.
So I guess instead, Chaz will talk about, well, they certainly didn't want anyone to get in there. The door was heavily booby-trapped, naturally.
Sarathiel stares in silence.
And Chaz just, like, sort of stares back for a moment. He's like, I just can't see what it is about you that they just want to keep for themselves.
Sarathiel opens his mouth to say something, then shuts it again.
Yeah, Chaz doesn't say anything. He's like, all right, well.
And then they sit in awkward silence until they come back with coffee.
Oh, fun. Okay, so we come back with coffee and some biscuits or something. By which I mean, of course, the chocolate-covered kind, not the puffy southern kind. Biscuits in the English sense.
I think as a character note, I have managed to spill coffee all over myself. So I come back looking like I have just escaped from some sort of terrible, terrible kitchen accident.
You did so well, keeping so neat.
I sort of sit down heavily at the table. Making coffee is harder than I expected.
Chaz is like, well, aren't you going to tell us about your newfound interest in chaos?
Well, I don't know if I should. I don't know if I should tell you. I don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot of fun. You know, it reminded me of the time that remember the time that I had the whole web in the courtyard and just everybody was like, oh, don't do that. But I didn't. It was like that.
I do remember.
Yeah, I vividly remember, yeah.
It was like that. And it was a lot of fun. But now I just can't stop thinking of the consequences. So I don't know. I'm going to have to sit with this one, I think.
Yeah, that is the way with magic, isn't it?
I turned to Viernon and I'm like, anyways, we have files we need to look at.
Yeah, here. He pulls out the Silvery Moon file because it's easiest to digest as a group. And he uses the message spell for Sarathiel and says, we'll go through your file, but I want you to have a chance to go through it privately with me, not just in case.
Sarathiel does not acknowledge that the message was sent.
Cool. Frosty. Great.
Feels a lot like an excuse to him, a lot like an excuse he's heard a lot of times before. So he just takes a couple pages of the Silvery Moon file and just goes through it.
Okay. What you found in those records, you found that Silvery Moon was in fact destroyed about 100 years from now, like Viernan said, by Bishaba and an army. The records on the event were incomplete. There's mentions that APTAP actually pulled out of Silvery Moon right before the event, but there's markers all over the file that indicate it was what's known as a fixed event, as opposed to a loose or changeable event.
That sounds sus.
So, Chaz, you have been working with time travel and things. You've been working
Absolutely.
with APTAP in this way for a while. So, you know that there are some things that are just fixed events that just can't be changed.
They are fated, if you will.
Yeah. So, it's possible that this really is just a fixed event. It's weird that APTAP just kind of pulls out of the city and doesn't do anything. But if it is truly a fixed event, then they couldn't do anything either.
He says, what happens if you change a fixed event? Looking at Chazmir, assuming he would probably be the first one to know.
That is a good question, DM. When you fuck with something in time that is supposed to stay there.
Yeah. This brings us back to the whole question of, that we were having when we were talking about Gwen's mom dying. Because, as far as we know, that's another fixed event. We don't know what will happen if you change that. But you think it might also be scalable. So, changing a small thing, like wearing a certain color on a certain day, maybe if you change a color, that might not affect things. Changing a death probably changes more.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly in an elven city where, elven souls are reincarnated. So if they'd had the typical cycle of building up for a war and then there's lots of deaths, the universe is going to balance itself somehow. You can make me a religion check.
Excellent. 18.
You remember something, and you remember this is also something that's a little complicated now. The god that is in charge of the timeline, as it were, is a certain god called Labellus Enereth. Now, you might maybe recall way back, I mentioned that some clerics were having trouble with spells and having trouble with their magic. And as you're looking through your notes and you see things that Tanya has scrawled in the margins, she has circled Labellus Enereth.
Ah.
She didn't really have time to tell you, but she did scrawl a quick note that those clerics were some of the ones that were having issues with their powers previously. It turns out they haven't lost their powers, but they're becoming unstable.
Okay.
There's been a lot more rumors floating around that this might be another situation like the Time of Troubles or other events where magic became unpredictable.
Well, to answer your question, Sarathiel, it's like everything with time and space, complicated. But here, he points to where Labellus Enereth is circled. This part that Tanya has circled, this is the god of the continuum. Clerics have had unstable magic. This has to be related. And it's also something to be very, very concerned about.
I hear you, and I do feel a certain level of concern for that. But again, what happens if you do break a fixed event? What happens if you unfix it? Does the universe rip in half? What literal consequences are we talking about here? Because this seems like the kind of thing where it's enough of a catastrophe where the consequence would have to be astronomically worse for this sort of null and void response.
Yeah, it's it's complex. I mean, timelines they'll do anything to revert themselves. I've heard rumors, I mean, it hasn't happened in a while, but I mean, I've heard stories that Libellus would actually intervene himself if things got bad. Time is supposed to flow in a certain way. I hate it. I don't know, honestly, what would happen.
He says, well, then what about smaller measured responses? What about, I don't know, evacuating the children, the families? Wouldn't that be a reasonable reconciliation? Sure, we can't save everyone, but can't we save someone?
I'm like gripping the table.
V is trying really hard to hold it together. Because, this is the shit that's been going through his head since he saw what happened.
God. That's right. He's the one who actually saw it. Poor guy.
Yeah, not just that. He saw his own children killed.
Oh, no!
Oh.
Yeah. So he just gets very quiet. And I think, in fact, he actually gets up and goes over to the sideboard and pours some whiskey into his coffee, a little unsteadily. I don't know, Sarathiel.
Isn't it worth finding out? He says, look, I've no interest in destroying the multiverse or summoning a god to slap me straight into the 9 hells or whatever consequence happens, but this level of catastrophe, this is one of the worst things to have happened on this continent in several centuries. Is it not worth exploring every avenue? Why would APTAP wholesale just write off any intervention?
You think I haven't been asking myself those questions?
I'm not trying to... This isn't me coming after you, Vannin. I'm just trying to understand why APTAP is the way that it is, why they seem to be keen on kidnapping me out of my timeline, intervening on that, but not with something as catastrophic and monumental as this.
The, toll was higher in your timeline. The risk was greater.
So it's all just numbers? What the hell did I do?
Who decides those numbers? Who's making these decisions, Viernan?
That's a good point. Who gets to decide which lives are worth more than others?
I'm not justifying any of this. I'm just...
Sarathiel says, I know I come at this from a biased perspective, and I understand that for some people, he gestures at Chaz, and Gwen, I guess to a lesser extent, APTAP has been an immeasurable good. But questions like this, he says, tapping the Silvery Moon file, are not going to go away if we ignore them.
That's what we're here for, Sarathiel, to answer those questions to the best of our ability. We don't know is the baseline. We don't know what will happen, but that doesn't mean we won't try.
Then who do we have to ask to find out is the next step?
I think a better question is, are the attempts at bringing down APTAP attempts at fixing wrongs like these, or are they just the result of chaos? I don't know. I don't know if APTAP is misguided. I don't know if they're being deliberately negligent. I don't know.
He says, yeah, I don't know either. And I can only really think of one person to ask.
The administrator herself?
That very one.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically there's a board, but...
Hey, quick question, DM. Now that my int is 10, how much do I remember about Oriana? Has it changed at all since, or was it a separate memory modification, or...
It's been 1 day since the break has happened. I think you're getting your intelligence back, but the memories are going to take time. You'll probably be able to supplement things with things that you learn in the file, but knowing immediately some of the things about her.
And also, it's been a couple centuries. He was a child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The amount of things you would be trying to remember in such a short span of time, no, I don't think you'd remember too much. I mean, you remember you have feelings of suspicion, you remember some instances of her being shady, but the whole place is shady, so you don't know if you're just
conflating. Yeah, okay. He'll say it like this then. He says, I have never really been able to explain why I feel so uncomfortable around Oriana. But there has to be a reason, right? Unless I just naturally hate tieflings, which I feel like I don't. I feel like I don't just hate tieflings.
No, you're not wrong. There has to be a reason.
I just can't remember.
Just like in my timeline, I was told that we destroyed AppTap. There must be a reason for that as well.
Well, I should hope so.
So here's the question, Chaz. Is any of this evidence enough to make you think that maybe they're right to have destroyed AppTap?
Oh yeah, he's heavily leaning on. He's like, based on things I'm learning, bad.
Says good, does bad. Very, very good ideas. Terrible execution. Okay. One other thing you do find in the note from Tanya, Chaz, is there was a sketch of a similar symbol that's been worn by some of the warlocks that they'd suspected. Remember back, like way back in episode 3, we were talking about warlocks that were around the edge of the city, not quite sure who they were, who their patron was.
Something about a star, if I recall.
Yep.
It's a shooting star. You found it on a black wax seal. It was on the letters in Drake's house.
Sarathiel is really conflicted about this. Oh, God. God, hang on. No, okay. No, I'm thinking about it. Hang on. I don't know. He goes up and gets himself a cup of coffee. Stalls for time.
Excellent.
He hasn't said anything, but you can tell Sarathiel's energy has changed, like the vibe in the room has shifted when you point out the shooting star symbol.
Yeah, Chaz is like, that was definitely in Drake's things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He downs an entire cup of coffee in one pull.
I think Viernan offers you the decanter.
He almost reaches out to take it, and then he does it. He says, "Okay, so listen, I have a twin soul. I wasn't going to tell.
I'm sorry, what?
I have a twin soul. Are you familiar with that term? You're not an elf, so you may not be."
Chaz tilts his head. He's like, I'm an elf, and I don't know what that is.
It's quite a rare phenomenon.
It's only surfacer elves.
The souls of elves are limited. They get reincarnated, as I'm sure you're aware, Chasmere Gwynedd. Sometimes when the supply can't meet the demand, the souls get split in half.
Like what happened with me and with Taina. We're also twin soul.
There's 2 of you?
Yeah, and sometimes 2 bodies, 1 soul.
I'm just like looking kind of baffled between like everybody. Doesn't it seem like it's like a very strong coincidence that both of you have this very rare thing?
Well, I mean, sure. I don't know. I don't know what the statistics are, unfortunately.
I don't either, but I mean, like, it's a city of elves. Statistically, it's likely to happen. But, like...
There's a lot of elves in this city. His name is Palantiel, and, I am reasonably certain that he is the one who orchestrated the explosion at AppTap.
What?
Oh.
And that is his symbol, the star that you were pointing at, the shooting star. That's, I noticed it on his brooch. He was wearing it on his brooch, and,
So, hold on. You're saying that this person that you're fated...
Palantiel.
Yes, this Palantiel, whatever, is the one who exploded and killed Drake, and what?
Yes. I am relatively certain of all of those things. Yes.
Didn't your future husband also is supposed to participate in this?
No, we just destroyed AppTap. That's completely separate.
Okay.
Well, so did Palantiel, in fairness. So far, that's his only crime, and we're not exactly sure it's a bad idea at this particular moment.
I just like bury my head in my hands. I'm like, so did my mother have a part in this too?
Probably.
I look up at Sarathiel in horror because I was just joking.
Not necessarily. We don't know that.
Statistically, I'm just saying. Probably, why not? Just shit happens constantly to this party, so who fucking knows?
Chaz is sort of murmuring to himself, though.
Viernan's just like, okay, no. Gwen, I'm sure it's not. I mean, it's a very early theory. It's a working theory.
There's a lot of coincidences. I'm just saying. It's very weird that we're all together and 2 of our party's lovers have been involved in destruction surrounding AppTap. It's just very weird. Wouldn't you agree?
It is. He's got a point.
I mean, like, yes, but okay. I just didn't get that vibe from your mother at all, but okay.
I mean, as far as I know, she was an upstanding person who would never destroy a building. Well, I mean, in war, but...
As you guys are having this conversation, Chaz is just like retreated into himself and he's just very silent.
And Sarathiel says, and I was reluctant to tell you all about Palantiel, because even if he is a little terroristy, he is still my twin soul. I want to protect him and I barely even know him. I
turn to look at Sarathiel. Does that mean you want to be a terrorist? I don't know how this twin soul thing works. Okay.
I don't want to be a terrorist, Gwynedd. I want to do what is right.
Then why?
Why what?
Why do you want to protect him if you don't even know him? I don't understand.
He's part of his soul. Viernan is looking at you, like, in disgust, because, like, he is also a twin soul. The idea of harming the other half of his soul, regardless of who it is, that's upsetting.
He just looks between the two of you in confusion. He's like, I don't understand.
Well, for a very first practical reason, if I did kill him, it would send me searing agony for the rest of my existence, and if that's not close enough, basic decency, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt before I murder him wholesale? Are any of these landing with you, Chasmia? He is the other half of my soul.
He takes a moment at the accusation there. No, I understand that it's the other half of your soul. But the benefit of the doubt for someone that you just met is the part that confuses.
You just met your husband. You trusted him enough to kiss him before you left.
I kiss a lot of people. Doesn't mean I trust them.
You're a hypocrite.
I'm just... He takes a deep breath. You know that we don't reincarnate, right? Drow don't.
I know.
We have one soul, one life. That's it.
He says, okay, so maybe you can't fully empathize. That's not your fault, and I'm not saying it is. But at least try to put yourself into my shoes. You meet a person who is literally your destiny, who is the other half of your soul. Wouldn't you try to do absolutely anything to assuage? Maybe he's just misguided. Maybe I can help him be better. If I was rescued from some horrible timeline, maybe I could do the same for him. Isn't it worth exploring?
It is. Chaz sort of takes a moment.
Did it seem like he was doing terrorism for good reasons?
There's no good reason to do terrorism, I'm pretty sure, Gwynedd. There's no good reason to kill a lot of people.
I don't know how you bring someone back from that, Sarathiel. I'm not saying it's impossible. You just need to think about that.
I'm not saying... I have to try. Please, I am begging for your confidence on this matter. Please don't tell anyone what I've told you. Telling you at all has been an act of trust, and I beg you not to betray it.
Of course not, Sarathiel. I promise that I will not tell anyone, and I will do my best to trust your judgment on this.
He deflates a little, because honestly, like, his his approval for you right now is so low, he'd be like, yeah, he'd probably sell me out to the administrator, I don't know. But when he gets your word, he kind of deflates a little and sinks down into the chair.
Sarathiel, is there any way you think maybe we could stop it from ever happening? I mean, we can time travel.
Stop what from happening?
The murder, like him killing a bunch of people.
I mean, maybe? I don't know.
Isn't that what this whole thing has been to find out?
I don't know, because, I mean, we're already in the thick of the timeline, and we wouldn't have even been assembled if he hadn't killed most of the experienced teams.
Yeah, but this time we have his twin soul. He's not going to kill...
We had his twin soul already.
But he's not going to kill Sarathiel, that's what I'm saying.
We don't really know. I would hope he wouldn't, but...
If he went through all this trouble to get to me, surely it would...
I mean,
it would be counterintuitive, at the very least.
Well, shouldn't we try to do that then? Doesn't that seem the best way to stop all of this from happening in the first place? And...
It still doesn't solve the problem that is APTAP.
Indeed.
It may make us ignorant again, but it wouldn't solve the moral quandary that their existence has raised.
Yeah, but I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah, problems like this are hard.
We're gonna talk to the administrator. We just said that.
I don't think that's going to solve the problem.
We do. We should. No, I need to talk to the administrant. I need to know why she has done. Let's just say I have some questions for her. Personal and professional.
Oh, you're not the only one.
What about the secondary file? What was the other one?
It was the bombing itself. But yeah, that was something that she was probably going to have to do more digging for. And basically all that she had about the bombing is what I've already related to you in the notes, which is that they found out that the warlocks are wearing this symbol, which you have now tied to Valentiel, so we at least have identified a ringleader.
More than a ringleader, like, if they're wearing his symbol, that implies that he's at least reached demigod status, right? Like, if he's... Warlocks get their power through pact magic, which is upsetting.
Right.
That's it takes quite a lot of power to make pacts with warlocks.
It sure does.
Sarathiel will bring that up. I was like, oh, so my twin soul is presumably rising to demigodhood, at the very least. Good. Great. Good.
Can I make a religion check or something for that? Like, to know what it takes to become...
Or a patron, I guess.
Sure.
Ooh.
17.
Tessa's on the right track. Like, a demigod would have the powers. There's a few creatures that might also have enough power to be a warlock patron.
Like a dragon? Sorry, that was I had a cough. It's a weird cough.
It sounded suspiciously like a dragon, but I think you were just sneezing.
Yeah.
You would know that it's much more likely that if it was a creature that was a patron, they would have to be very powerful. Minimum, like an adult dragon. More likely...
You need to be an ancient dragon, yeah. Like, you need to be ancient.
I didn't say how powerful any of these warlocks are, either.
Yep.
That's true.
Like, we haven't established if they're more than dipshits.
I can cast a spell. Good job, bud. Congrats.
Yeah.
So they'd have to be very powerful creatures, such as dragons.
Not just a dragon, but like adult or older. I mean, we're talking hundreds, if not thousands of years old.
Mm-hmm.
And then, gods, demigods, etc. Powerful beings.
He just looks at you like, oh, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, it does imply that he'd be quite powerful. Just just throwing it out there, just in case it doesn't get said out loud here.
Yeah, none of this sounds good.
Yeah, it all sounds pretty bad. I will give it that.
What kind of man are you into, Sarathiel?
I really wish I had an answer for you.
So is the plan just to barge into the administrator's office and just interrogate?
Scream at him? I mean, I'm for that.
Listen, we've all been up an extremely long time. Hasty decisions are not good.
Yes, exactly.
I understand. I do.
I mean, we've all just had like a metric ton of coffee, so I think we're pretty awake.
Also, we did put Tanya in a lot of danger. We made her do a lot of things for us.
Is there... Do you have like a couch? I'm like gonna look around.
We've got guest rooms, Gwen.
You have guest rooms?
I even have a toothbrush you can borrow.
Is the bed bigger than a twin?
Yes.
Oh my god, I get up. I'm just gonna like I bolt upstairs. I claim this one, Chaz, you can't have it!
Chaz just like follows. All right, calm down. Chaz just follows him, like chuckling, like, oh boy, he's excited. Good night, by the way.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night! I do a belly flop onto the bed.
I think V at least escorted you up to show you which rooms were the guest rooms, not just pell-mell.
I've claimed the master bedroom just on accident.
Oh god.
No. No. Absolutely not.
Chaz is like, oh no, you don't want that bed. You don't know what they've done on it.
Oh.
Disgusting acts of heterosexuality.
My dad told me they would die.
Oh no, I've definitely had sex before.
Oh.
Not that your dad knows, I assume.
Not that my dad knows.
But as far as your dad knows, you're a blushing virgin, and it's fine. He'll never have to know.
Exactly. But yeah, presumably we get settled in beds, right? Like, not that hard.
Yeah, he gets you set up separately.
When he comes back down the stairs, Sarathiel he's like standing silhouetted by the moonlight coming through the window, like some dramatic shit like that. And he turns around and he says, "Is it strange that I was half expecting you to bolt?"
I'm not gonna lie, I wanted to. But I owe you better than that. Listen,
Is it finally time to go over what you found?
I just want you to be careful with it. It's not the easiest read.
Well, the more reason I should get through it then, yes?
I'm concerned about the trauma that it might bring up.
I guarantee you, whatever trauma it awakens, it's better than knowing nothing. Is the file itself like the one that I wrote?
Yeah, so I mean it's that one. It's also like there's other files and things that you've got. What you wrote was just a snippet of his file. There have been other entries and things since then. You wrote some of the juicier tidbits, but
Yeah.
like even just reading about some of your previous history would be terrible.
Oh yeah, it's going to be absolutely traumatizing for Sarathiel. I have no illusions otherwise. I just want to know what specifically he's reading.
He's going to approach it more from like the high level stuff first and ease you into, some of the bigger stuff. He does know what you're looking for, but like I said, he's a healer. He doesn't want to traumatize you. He doesn't want you to have any major reactions because he doesn't quite know what's going on with the mark either.
I feel like, it's to a certain extent unavoidable. But he definitely, as soon as it's offered, he definitely heads over to take the paper.
I gave the example of reading your therapist's file, but like they do tend to insist that you don't read it unsupervised so that they can explain things that are in there or whatever. And obviously a fair amount of it is still redacted because this was the secondary copy. It was not the main copy that was in Oriana's office. So like the dates are still blacked out and there's whole chunks that are just not in here.
Yeah, that's fair. But he definitely still goes through it. And, just based on, the initial summary, the key incidents, parentheses, known, watching his face is not, a pleasant experience. He spends a while skimming through the various incidents, and the first thing he says is, 20 million people? Am I reading this right?
I told you, they deemed him the God Eater, a catastrophic level threat.
Me. They deemed me a catastrophic threat because I killed 20 million people.
They deemed him. You are not the same man. You are
Raven's Bluff?
You
Arvindor?
are outside of your
That's-
timeline. You are not the same man.
245,000 people dead in Mount Celestia?
This is why I didn't want you to read it.
I'm not angry at you. I'm not even angry. 20 million people. Were they right to do this? Was this the best option for me?
No.
To keep me as a cage?
No.
If the alternative is this.
This was completely immortal.
But if the alternative is 20 million people dead.
There's no good answer, but they had no right to do what they did to you.
He keeps reading. My father's hoard and sigil. My father had a hoard? I don't even remember my father. I know this is a big ask, Fiona, but is there any way I could talk to him or go to Sigil somehow, or maybe find my mother? I remember I had a mother, although I can't remember the details. I need to talk to someone about this. Someone who knew me at all. Anyone.
You were having this conversation with Viernan. Things were getting tense. You're just reading and reading and reading this thing. And he's about to try to calm you down when a letter just kind of appears in a flurry of probably sparks. She seems the type to use sparks on the table nearby.
Sarathiel is kind of startled out of the groundswell of emotion.
Viernan is too.
Says, What
I
the hell?
don't know. And he goes over to look at it.
And and it's addressed to Sarathiel of House Pandaren, but then of House Pandaren is crossed out, and it says, whoops, silly old me. Oh lordy, okay. He opens it up, kind of reluctantly. My dear Sarathiel, I hear our mutual friend has finally found you again, and I do so hope that my little spell helped. That charm those artificers devised was a nasty piece of spellwork, and terribly tricky to unravel without triggering its failsafes. But then you're no stranger to tricky magic either. I do so hate to put these things in writing, but needs must, and you are an old friend. If you need help with a sticky situation, use the enclosed scroll, and I'll see what I can do. Or just ask Bell, he knows how to find me. Ta for now, dear. Signed, S. Who the hell is S?
Hey everyone, Val here. Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of Crit Fail Club, Restoration. If you can't wait to hear what happens next, check out our Discord server for episodes in pre-release, or to listen in live as we record. You can join us by going to bit.ly/cfcdiscord. For more information on the show, character biographies, and links to social media, head to our website, critfail.club or critfailclub.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. We don't advertise at all, so if you like what you hear, tell a friend who might also enjoy the show, post on social media about it, or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Full episodes are available on our YouTube channel, bit.ly/cfcchannel, or on other major podcast platforms. Thanks again for tuning in.